After another grueling day at the construction site, Ethan just wanted some peace and quiet. The sun had already dipped below the Kansas horizon, casting a soft orange glow across the fields that surrounded their modest farmhouse. The smell of autumn leaves lingered in the air, and he was looking forward to his usual evening ritual: a warm shower, a cup of black coffee, and maybe a quick chat with the girls about their day. But something felt off. As soon as he stepped through the creaky front door, the silence inside was deafening. Charlotte, his wife, sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at her phone, her wine glass nearly empty. There was no music playing, no laughter from upstairs, not even the clatter of dishes or the hum of conversation. It was like the soul of the house had vanished. Ethan set his tool belt down slowly and glanced around. "Where are the girls?" he asked, trying to sound casual, though the tightness in his chest betrayed his worry. Charlotte didn't look up. Her fingers scrolled aimlessly on the screen, lips pressed in a thin line. The silence between them was louder than any scream. Something was wrong. He could feel it. Ethan was halfway to the hallway when he heard muffled whispers coming from the den. The back room was supposed to be locked, yet light peeked from the cracked door. Curious and a little uneasy, he approached, his work boots barely making a sound on the wooden floor. Through the small opening, he saw them, Ava and Layla, his stepdaughters, hunched close together on the couch. He smiled faintly, relieved, until he caught fragments of their conversation that turned his blood cold. "You don't even have to call him Dad anymore," Ava muttered. "He's not our real father," Layla whispered back, bitterness laced in her tone. "I can't believe Mom married him." Ethan froze. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. His breath caught somewhere between disbelief and heartbreak. He had been in their lives since they were toddlers, rocking them to sleep when nightmares struck, sewing costumes for Halloween, clapping at every school recital. He wasn't just a presence. He was their father, even if he hadn't shared their blood. But to them, he was just someone their mother had brought home. He backed away, silent as a ghost, trying to process the words that now echoed in his head like cannon fire. His heart pounded violently in his chest as he stumbled into the dim kitchen, where Charlotte still sat unmoved, eyes on her phone like nothing had happened. Dinner was cold that night, both literally and emotionally. The girls came to the table, offered no greeting, no acknowledgement. They chewed in silence. Ethan tried to meet their eyes, but they refused to look up. The warmth that had once filled their home had evaporated. That night, as Charlotte retreated to bed without a word, Ethan stayed up, sitting alone in the darkened living room. The ticking of the wall clock was the only sound, as his mind replayed the moment. He's not our real father. He hadn't felt this kind of ache in years. Not when his own father walked out. Not even when he lost his job a decade ago. This was different. This was betrayal from the ones he loved most. At sunrise, Ethan found the girls in the kitchen, eyes glued to their phones. He cleared his throat. "Do you not see me as your father?" he asked, voice low and cautious. Ava didn't even glance up. "You're not. You never really were." The words were delivered with the carelessness of someone reading a weather report. Ethan stood there, gutted, trying to understand how years of love could be erased so easily. "If that's how you feel," he said, his voice tight with barely contained hurt, "then I won't pretend to be anymore." Neither responded. Not a flinch, not a protest. And just like that, a silent line had been drawn through the heart of their family. Ethan walked away, unsure if he had just made a mistake or finally started standing up for himself. The following days were like living in a ghost town. Ethan stuck to his word. He stopped making breakfast, stopped reminding Ava and Layla about their homework, and didn't ask how school had gone. Where once he had been the glue holding their routine together, now he was just present but hollow. At first, the girls didn't seem to notice. They breezed through the mornings, cereal bowls clinking, heads still buried in their phones. But by day 4, the cracks began to show. Layla wandered into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. She paused, staring at the counter. "Aren't you making waffles?" Ethan didn't look up from the newspaper. "I figured you didn't need me for that," he said calmly. She blinked, caught off guard. "Oh," was all she managed before walking out, clearly unsettled. By the end of the week, the silence in the house was no longer passive. It was sharp, heavy. Even Charlotte, who had initially stayed neutral, began to feel it. One evening, as the girls shuffled off to their rooms after dinner, Charlotte turned to him, glass of wine trembling in her hand. "Why are you doing this?" Ethan kept his eyes on the TV. "Because I'm not their father. They told me that, so I stopped pretending." "You're punishing them." "I'm giving them exactly what they asked for." The conversation ended with Charlotte walking away, frustrated and helpless. But that wasn't the real surprise. That night, for the first time in years, the house felt unfamiliar to Ethan. He wandered past the girls' closed doors, past Charlotte's room, and ended up sitting alone in the garage. He stared at his old fishing gear, dusty and forgotten. So much of his life had revolved around them. Every decision, every sacrifice, and now he felt like a stranger in his own home. What he didn't expect was what happened the following evening. He had just come home from work, tired, when he noticed the living room light was on. That was strange. They usually holed up in their rooms. Cautiously, he walked in. Ava and Layla were sitting side by side on the couch, fidgeting. "Can we talk?" Ava asked, her voice small. He didn't sit. "About what?" Layla spoke up this time. "We didn't mean it. What we said, about you not being our real dad." Ethan raised an eyebrow, still standing. "You didn't mean it?" "We were mad, confused. We thought, I don't know, that saying it would make us feel more in control. It didn't." Ethan crossed his arms. "So now that things are uncomfortable, you want to fix it?" They both nodded, but he didn't respond. He simply turned, walked away, and left them sitting in the same silence he had endured for days. That silence, now it belonged to them. The next morning, Ava and Layla sat in silence at the breakfast table. No waffles, no orange juice, no warmth, just silence. Across the room, Ethan sipped his coffee without a word. The distance between them wasn't just emotional anymore. It was physical. The air felt thicker, heavier. Layla glanced at her sister, her eyes silently asking, "What do we do now?" For the first time, they felt it, the void he left behind. The garbage cans weren't taken out. The broken bathroom drawer still jammed. No one had replaced the batteries in the TV remote. The little things he had always done quietly, without praise, were piling up. And now, his absence spoke louder than any scolding ever could. It wasn't until later that afternoon that something inside Ava finally cracked. She walked past Ethan in the hallway and paused, watching him as he screwed a loose hinge back onto the pantry door. His expression was distant, his movements robotic. "Do you hate us?" she asked, barely above a whisper. He looked up for the first time. His eyes were tired, but not angry, just wounded. "I don't hate you," he said simply, "but I don't know how to be what you don't want." Layla joined her sister a moment later, holding her phone to her chest like it was some kind of shield. "We didn't understand what we were saying," she said quietly. "We were stupid." "No," Ethan replied, wiping his hands on a towel. "You weren't stupid, you were honest. That's what hurt." The girls stood frozen, guilt washing over their faces. It wasn't just about the words anymore. It was about everything they had taken for granted. Later that evening, they watched from the staircase as Ethan and Charlotte talked on the porch. They couldn't hear what was being said, but the way their mother held her head in her hands said enough. She looked defeated, and Ethan, he looked like he had already let go. That night, Ava couldn't sleep. The house creaked in the wind, and the silence buzzed in her ears. She climbed down from her bed and tiptoed to the garage, where she knew he'd be. Ethan was sitting in the old recliner, a cold beer in one hand, staring at nothing. She hesitated. "I used to think you didn't care, because you didn't yell when we messed up, because you were always calm." He didn't look at her. "But now I get it," she continued. "You didn't yell because you were trying to protect us. From your anger, from yourself. That was love, wasn't it?" He exhaled deeply, then nodded. Layla appeared behind her, teary-eyed. "We want to fix this. Please let us." Ethan's shoulders slumped, not in defeat, but in exhaustion. He wasn't ready to forgive, not yet. But for the first time, they had finally seen him, not as a placeholder, not as an obligation, but as a father. The days that followed were quiet, too quiet. But something had shifted. Ava lingered a little longer before walking away. Layla hovered near the garage, watching Ethan work with tools, like she wanted to say something, but couldn't. Then, one chilly Saturday morning, Charlotte approached him softly. "Layla's teacher wants us both at the conference. Maybe it would help." Ethan hesitated. He hadn't gone to one in years, not out of apathy, but because he didn't feel like he belonged. But after a moment, he nodded. "I'll go. For her." At school, the teacher explained, Layla's grades were slipping, not from laziness, but from something deeper. "She's withdrawn," she said gently, like she's carrying more than she should. Ethan glanced at Layla, slouched in her seat, eyes glued to the floor. The guilt hit him like a wave. He hadn't realized how much his silence had weighed on them. Outside, Charlotte's voice cracked through the cold wind. "She doesn't just need you as the man who fixes things. She needs her dad." That evening, Ethan walked into the house to find the girls waiting. No phones, no distractions. "Dinner tonight?" Ava asked. "Just us?" They cooked. Poorly, but laughed more than they had in weeks. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. "To second chances," Charlotte said, raising her glass. Ethan looked around the table, saw their eyes filled not with regret, but hope. "To trying again," he replied. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't a fix, but it was the beginning of something new. And this time, they wanted him to be part of it. In the weeks that followed, Ethan slowly began stepping back into family life. Not out of duty, but because he chose to. He started small, fixing Layla's bike, giving Ava a ride to her study group. He didn't do it for praise. He did it out of love. The same love that had never left, even when his heart had been shattered. But the biggest change wasn't in his actions. It was in how he saw himself. For years, Ethan believed being a father meant doing enough. Now he understood. Being a father means loving, even when that love isn't returned right away. One night, while folding laundry, he found a note tucked into his shirt pocket. "Thank you for still trying, even when we didn't deserve it." It wasn't signed, but he knew it was from Layla. The words hit him harder than any apology. That Sunday morning, Ava came in holding an old photo. It was from a fishing trip years ago, all of them laughing by the lake. "We never thanked you," she said softly, "for everything." Ethan looked at her, emotion caught in his throat. "You don't need to thank me, just remember it, that's enough." She stepped forward and hugged him, not out of guilt, not out of obligation, but out of love. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan didn't feel like an outsider, or just the man who married their mom. He felt like what he had always been, their dad. Not perfect, not by blood, but real. The healing didn't happen overnight. Even after the apologies, even after the hugs and small moments of connection, Ethan still carried the scars. Words have weight, and the ones spoken by Ava and Layla had left bruises that didn't fade quickly. But there was something else growing now, quietly and persistently. Effort. And effort meant everything. They began doing what they never had before, noticing. Ava would knock gently on the garage door to ask if he needed help with tools. Layla started leaving him coffee in the morning, just the way he liked it. Charlotte would invite him to sit with them for movie night, sliding over on the couch with a blanket already waiting for him. These weren't grand gestures, but they were real. One night, as the family sat around the fire pit in the backyard, roasting marshmallows under the soft Kansas stars, Layla looked up and said, "I know we can't take it back, what we said, but we mean it now. You're our dad, you always have been." Ethan didn't reply immediately. He just looked at her, and then at Ava, who nodded with glassy eyes, and he felt something shift inside him. The pain didn't vanish, but the wall between them had begun to crumble. He reached out and pulled both girls close. "I don't need perfect," he said quietly. "I just need honest. I need to know we're trying." Ava nodded. "We are. We're still learning." "So am I," Ethan replied with a soft chuckle. Turns out being a dad is a two-way street. In that moment, under the open sky, surrounded by laughter and flickers of firelight, Ethan finally felt it. Peace. He hadn't demanded their love. He had earned their understanding. And that was even more powerful, because love that comes after pain, love that survives disappointment, that's real, that's earned, and that's the kind of love that lasts. He looked around at the family he had helped build. Not perfect, not traditional, but held together by choice, effort, and growth. That night, as they walked back into the house, Ava reached for his hand. She didn't let go. And neither did he. Family isn't defined by blood, but by presence, sacrifice, and love. Sometimes the people who stay, who fix what's broken, who show up without being asked, are the ones we overlook the most. Words spoken in anger can cut deeper than we realize. And once said, they can't be taken back. But healing begins when both sides stop expecting perfection and start giving effort. This story reminds us that being a parent is not about biology. It's about showing up every day, even when it's hard. It's about doing the little things that no one notices until they're gone. And it's about teaching our children, not just with words, but through love, consistency, and quiet strength. But it also teaches that even those who give endlessly need to be seen, heard, and appreciated. Love, to be meaningful, must go both ways. And sometimes, understanding comes only after everything falls apart. If you're a step-parent, foster parent, or someone who's been chosen rather than given by blood, your role matters. Don't let silence or rejection define your worth. Your consistency, your effort, your quiet support, those are the foundations of real parenthood. And if you're a son or daughter reading this, take a moment to reflect. Has someone been there for you without expecting anything in return? Someone who kept showing up when it was inconvenient? Don't wait for them to walk away to realize what they meant to you. Appreciate now. Speak kindly. Say thank you, even for the smallest things. Because love without recognition slowly turns to distance. And one day, that distance might be too hard to cross. If you enjoy deep, emotional, and meaningful stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new update. Your support is the motivation that drives us to keep bringing you powerful stories. Once again, thank you for being here, and see you in the next story.